Hey YouTube, in this video I'm going to be doing deck profile on my updated Coral deck. So Coral got a decent stride unit with the Frontier Star Coral, as well as some decent rear guards. So this card's kind of old, so it's kind of hard to build. It originated with when Prisms came out in Dazzling Diva, so literally like 3 years ago. A little more than 3 years now, but anyway, it's back. I decided to put it back together because it used to be kind of like it's definitely still considered underdog Bermuda Triangle deck. I wouldn't consider it as strong as Prisms or anything because it lacks critical pressure and stuff like that. But where it lacks in stuff like critical pressure or big numbers, it makes up for that with super hand advantage. So that was always been Coral's strong point, is drawing cards and keeping them in the hand, and then filling up the soul with Coral units, which does help mesh with Frontier Star's effect. So for Shangri-La Star Coral, she's your main go-to Vanguard. She's also cross-ride with the Ride Chain Coral Aurora Star in the Soul, so there are ways to fix that. So ideally, you don't really want to ride Aurora Star ever. You just kind of want to use this as either stride fodder, or you want to put it in the Soul to give you cross-ride. So that's basically what you do with that. So just 4 of those, or 8, that's the grade 3 lineup, all Coral Vanguards. Next, for grade 2s, well, I guess we'll show this one first. So we run 4 of the Aurora, or no, Shiny Star Coral. So she's a grade 2 Coral, pretty self-explanatory. Then 4 of this new card, Active Pink Lorana. So Lorana's really nice. So they finally get a decent 11k attacker in the form of Lorana. So she's really good. She also does, she can, if you misride, you're on Ride Chain, you ride this instead, then you can, you know, if you ride her on the grade 1, you can potentially make her go into the Soul by superior riding the grade 2. But otherwise, if not, then when she's in the Soul, if you have a grade 3 greater Vanguard with Coral in the name, you can counterblast 1, call us out from the Soul, Soul Charge 1. Actually, she goes to your hand, call this to R, and then Soul Charge 1. So she replaces herself in the Soul, so you can potentially like Soul Charge something like Aurora Star or whatever, build the Soul with Coral cards, and then she goes to the field. Next, 3 Mermaid Idol Flute. Flute is in here just because I wanted another decent 11k attacker. Ideal cards you could run in here are Girls Rock Rio, but the deck already draws so much, I don't really know how effective that would be. And Girls Rock Rio can't really hit proper numbers ever unless you're running the 8k vanilla or some sort of strong booster in the back row. So I don't really feel like it's necessary in here. It also eats up Counterblast and Soul Charges when you're already going to end up doing that a lot with Coral's effects. So I felt like Mermaid Idol Flute is pretty decent in here. Does give you more pressure to the opponent with additional 11k attackers in addition to Lorana. So it gives you more 11k attackers. For grade 1s, 4 Mermaid Idol Ellie Sentinels, 4 Fresh Star Coral. Grade 1, probably one of the most important grade 1s to try to open up with in your opening hand. Otherwise, if not, they did get a really good new support card in the form of Admire Successor Lyrica. So Lyrica is basically the equivalent of Osidius in Ripples. Basically, when she's placed on V or R, you reveal top five cards of the deck, search her up to 1 grade 2 or less Coral, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck, and if you put a card in your hand, put a card from your hand in the Soul. So you could potentially fix the Ride Chain, at least the grade 1 and the grade 2 copies, and I like that it works if it's placed on V or R. I could see people trying to make this deck work kind of like Ripples, but I don't see it happening. At least with my build, I am running a lot of 11k attackers. However, this is not an 11k attacker unless you have grade 3, so in that case, Flute would be the only one. But I can see people trying some weird like grade 2 style with this or whatever. I don't know. We'll see what people come up with. Let me know in the comments if you have any weird ideas regarding that style. And the only last grade 1 I'm running is the Soul Blast 2 Unflip card. So countercharge 2 cards for Soul Blast 2 basically. Because you'll potentially get a bunch of grade 3s that you want to use to stride, and really you only stride like 2 units in here unless you're G-guarding, and usually it's either Frontier Star or Olivia. There's a couple of other one-ofs that we run, but that's basically it for the grade 1s. For the trigger lineup, it's very simple. 12 critical. I built it with 12 critical. I feel like with Coral being an underdog, and with Coral being really good at just drawing a bunch of cards, and then pressuring with like a bunch of 11k in the front row, 12 crits is really the way to go. Just forces the opponent to lose hand advantage to you more easily with having to do less work. And if they don't know that you're 12 crit, then you could potentially like, triple crit them or whatever. So then they can't really say Coral's bad when they die that way, or they lose that way. And then 4 heal for G-Guardian, everyone gotta run those. And then the Coral starter, Angelic Star Coral, because it's the Coral deck. So that is the main deck. For the Stride units, I'm running 4 Frontier Star Coral. This card's relatively easy to get. It's not really expensive or anything. 3 to 4 copies of this is good. But it does scale with the number of face-up Frontier Star Corals. That's why I definitely recommend minimum of 3, ideally 4. Because this deck does benefit a lot from using this. Next, for Olivia. Because Olivia does work in here relatively easily as well. Potentially you can run into a little bit of issues because there's a lot of like 4 and 3 of for the whole deck. Not a lot of variety there, but it still works. Still really good card. It does give the Coral deck the critical pressure that it needs, as well as extra attacks and stuff like that. So with 12 critical, it's just really scary. 1 Elprina and 1 Amoris. So these are your bounce 2. Ideally, like the only problem with this stride, and that's the reason why I was saying earlier, like Olivia and Frontier are like the only things you stride, is because there's not a whole lot of good bounce targets in this deck, with the exception being Lyrica, really, because you can bounce her and then call her back down and use her effect multiple times. So I mean that's the only, it's pretty much the only rear guard, unless you're running like Girls Rec Rio or some other grade 2 or something that does other things. These cards aren't really all that necessary. In fact, you could even like take one of these out and just run an extra G-Guardian if you wanted. Next, 1 Somni. Again, she doesn't really fit too well with Coral. I feel like really Olivia and Frontier are the only ones I go to. So you could essentially like drop 2 of these and put more G-Guardians in if you wanted. I guess that would be more ideal. So you could have like a 3rd Nasha, for instance. But I'm only running 2 Nasha in here, 2 Leona, and 1 Desmol. You could run a 2nd Desmol or even Scryu or something. But anyway, guys, that's basically it. It's a very simple deck to build. It's relatively simple playstyle as well. Doesn't require that much strategy compared to, say, duos or, you know, like even some of the other ones. Even Pacifica, I would say, has more strategy built in. But let me know in the comments what you think of the Coral deck. There's a lot of people that really are like diehard fans of the Coral deck, and then there are those that kind of say that it's garbage. But anyway, I think it's a pretty good casual deck, and with the new Stride unit and with the 12 crit build like mine, you can't really go wrong with 12 crit in the Coral deck with such a huge hand advantage. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that deck profile video, and let me know in the comments what you think of the Coral archetype for Bermuda Triangle. Looking forward to any ideas of improvements for like grade 2 or grade 1 or whatever, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.